Nintendo, you did this to us. You knew what you were doing, but you still decided to do it. Nintendo Miis are likely the single most popular form of custom character creation ever, of course followed closely by the male and female body visualizers.
What?
The popularity of Miis is due to the simplicity of the character creation, where you can easily make anyone, or even anything, in the Mii Maker. I mean, just take this hamburger for example. People literally made a hamburger using this simple editor. Although Miis are pretty simple, the process in making them was not simple at all. In fact, the history of Miis probably goes back further than you'd expect. It starts all the way back in 0 AD, when he was born. Yep, you guessed it, the one and only Shigeru Miyamoto. I'm only kidding, of course. He wasn't actually born in 0 AD. The story actually starts during the Famicom era, which was around the early to mid 1980s. Shigeru Miyamoto, the soon-to-be legendary creator of the famous Super Mario Bros., had what he thought was an amazing idea. Miyamoto created a tech demo for the Famicom in which you could create your own face or other people's faces using your Famicom. You could change the shape of or move certain facial features like eyes, hair, the mouth, etc. Shigeru Miyamoto wanted to use a Famicom add-on called a scenario disc to be able to control these characters. All of Shigeru Miyamoto's colleagues loved the idea, and one of them actually kissed Shigeru Miyamoto on the cheek because of how good of an idea it was. That actually never happened. His co-workers actually didn't like the idea because they couldn't see how they could turn his idea into a game, and Miyamoto would remain kissless for over 2 decades. The next shot at character creation that Miyamoto tried was on the N64 with the Mario Artist Talent Studio in 1999. People who had the Nintendo 64 disk drive add-on could make their own avatars and make movies out of them. People could also use the Game Boy Camera add-on to put their face on the character if they wanted to. The idea wasn't very popular at Nintendo. In his Mii development conference, Miyamoto never explicitly mentioned why the idea wasn't welcomed. It was likely because the N64 disk drive was an astronomical failure, only selling 15,000 units, so the idea didn't really even have any ground to get started on, so everyone at Nintendo just assumed the idea wasn't a good one. Miyamoto's next attempt at avatar creation was in the GameCube era. This next idea would use the Game Boy Camera and the Game Boy e-reader to make yet another avatar maker that could make monstrosities like this. This idea was scrapped and it never found its way to the public. Miyamoto's co-workers yet again said, "Ha ha ha, this is actually kind of funny next." Even Miyamoto agreed with them. He had no idea how to turn his idea into a more interesting idea that would last people more than 15 minutes. Then Miyamoto was approached by Satoru Iwata, and my guess sometime around 2003 to 2005. He was told that another team in his building was making something similar to what he was envisioning as a DS game. So he said screw you to his team and decided to work with the other studio. During the creation of this game, they were having issues with making this game with Miis interesting. Meanwhile, in another studio at Nintendo, they were trying to make a Wii Sports game for the upcoming Nintendo console, the Wii. This studio was having troubles of their own. They were thinking, how are we supposed to make a game called Wii Sports interesting? They were thinking of using Mario characters, but even Nintendo knew that Mario had been milked for all he was worth. So Miyamoto called up the Wii Sports team and said, "Do you guys remember those avatars I made a while ago? Let's make them punch each other." And just like that, Nintendo had their golden idea. 20 years of Miyamoto's avatar creation was finally getting a good game idea. I know you could be thinking right now, did it really take 20 years of pain and suffering just for him to think of a sports game? Which is actually kind of fair, but at the time, sports games weren't really as popular and mainstream as they are today, so at the time, that thought probably wasn't as obvious as it seems now. But Miis weren't just for sports games. The Miis played a much bigger role than probably even Miyamoto could have expected. The Wii itself had a Mii Maker that allowed you to make whatever person you wanted, most importantly yourself. The main goal of Miis was so people could play as themselves. When you win at a game of Wii Sports, you aren't just winning as Mario or some other character you don't care about. You're winning as yourself. The play as yourself aspect was what made Wii Sports great. You can play baseball, boxing, golf, and tennis, or do training as yourself, but you don't actually have to do pretty much any of the physical work. Perfect for lazy people like me. Why get ripped when your Mii can get ripped? People found it refreshing to be able to play as any character they wanted to play as. I can guarantee that if I had to play as Princess Peach instead of Pooh-chin, I'd have to fight someone. Wii Sports isn't the only game on the Wii that uses Miis. There were actually almost 80 retail games that were included on the Switch that included Miis, but the most important ones are the ones on the Wii Blank series. This includes Wii Sports, of course, Wii Sports Resort, which is a sequel to Wii Sports, Wii Fit and Wii Fit Plus, which are fitness-centered games, Wii Party, Wii Play, and Wii Motion, which are all party-style mini-game-based Wii games, and Wii Music, which has mini-games related to music. The Mii was arguably the largest factor leading to the huge success of the Wii, and the Pli was probably the largest G of the knee to the Cli. All these E sounds are killing me. The Wii sold over 100 million units, so I'm sure Miyamoto was beyond satisfied by the end of the Wii's cycle. He likely just thought the avatar creation idea would make a cool game, but I doubt he expected it to pioneer an entire console. Miyamoto's original idea was around 1983, so it took over 20 years for Miyamoto's idea to finally find success in 2006. After the Wii's release, there was still work on Miis for Nintendo DS games, although the Mii representation was sparse, with only 5 games containing them and only 2 requiring them in the game. The first quote-unquote game was Personal Trainer Walking. This game came with a pedometer, and it allowed you to view charts of your walking habits and set goals for yourself. Unrelated, but I wonder if this led to the idea for using the pedometer in the 3DS. The other game requiring Miis was Tomodachi Collection, which was a Sims-type game where you create your own characters and take care of their needs and unlock new areas. It was pretty much the only game that fully utilized the idea of Miis, and I never even had the game, let alone heard of it, which is surprising because a game where you can starve anyone you want should have been first on my wish list. Overall, the DS had very little Mii representation, and the DS-style consoles wouldn't receive much until the release of the 3DS. Most people probably think of the Wii when they think of the Mii, and I also do. Well, the point is that the 3DS was more Mii-y than the Wii. The 3DS console not only had many games featuring Miis, but they also played a major role in the 3DS system itself, even more so than the Wii. The reason this is true is because of the Street Pass feature. The 3DS had a feature where if you walked around in populated areas, other people's 3DSs would send signals to your 3DS and you could meet them through your 3DS and you could sort of play games with them. The way that you met them obviously wasn't through video chat or something, it was through their Mii, and they would put a little bio of themselves so that you could get to know them. Once you met the person, you were able to play little games with them, like being able to collect puzzle pieces from other people to complete 3D puzzles, or to fight other people's armies to grow your empire. Street Pass was truly an amazing time to be playing video games, which is why it became a huge reason for the success of the 3DS. There were also a ton of games that included Miis on the 3DS, like Mario Kart 7, Super Smash Bros, and Miitopia. These games all allowed you to play as your character in the game, whether it was to race or to fight. One extremely important game for the 3DS was Tomodachi Life. The game was similar to Tomodachi Collection, but basically it had more content. The main reason I gave this game its own sentence was to show you another clip of the amazing singing mini game where you could put any lyrics in and the Miis would sing it for you.
So you know we're going. Clean and smelly.
Perfect.
The 3DS extended the popularity of the Miis for about another 7 years, which was about how long the 3DS was relevant in my opinion, which meant that by the end of the 3DS's huge popularity, Miis had been popular for 11 years. After the 3DS was the Nintendo Wii U, which had its fair share of Miis as well. The Wii U opened with a game called Nintendo Land, where you could play as Miis to compete with other people in various games, or you could just play by yourself if you'd like. Of course, the Wii U also had a Mii Maker that was very similar to the ones on the Wii and the 3DS, so that you could use your creations in games. The games that used Miis on the Wii U were considerably less than on the Wii or the 3DS, but the main Nintendo games still used them, like Mario Kart 8, Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, Wii Fit U, and Wii Party U. Another main use of Miis on the Wii U was Miiverse. Miiverse was a social media platform created by Nintendo for Nintendo fans to talk about Nintendo stuff together. People used their Mii as a profile picture for their account, so they were a pretty big part of the social platform. Miiverse was also on the 3DS, which was likely the largest source for traffic on the network. The network shut down in 2017 because of stuff like this.
If you think about it, Wii U really isn't doing that bad. I mean, if they have around 6 million units sold, there's only like 7 million people on the earth, so almost everyone has a Wii U.
The next console to include Miis was the Nintendo Switch. This time, Mii representation was different, because this time they weren't at the forefront of the console. The Nintendo Switch only has the Mii creation screen when you're selecting your Switch account profile picture, rather than having its own icon in the menu. This is actually a pretty big deal because this is the first Nintendo console where they're not advertised hugely for the system after 3 consoles where they were. The main games still do include Miis like Mario Kart and Smash again. Super Mario Maker 2 also has Mii representation with needing a profile Mii for in the game. The only game on the Switch that actually requires Miis is Miitopia. The game is a remaster of the game on the 3DS, and the game was actually a pretty big success on the Switch. The main draw of the game was the amazing Mii creator, and people were able to make them highly realistic with extremely impressive designs. The popularity of Miitopia proves that Miis aren't quite dead yet, although they are definitely heading that way. Oh yeah, Nintendo used to make mobile games. Forgot about that. Most of the Nintendo mobile games have Miis in them, but I would say that the only one that had substantial representation of them was Miitomo. Miitomo was a game similar to Tomodachi Life where you create a character and take care of them, but this game included a social aspect of being able to ask your friends questions and answer their questions. The game was not very successful as the game shut down just 2 years after it was launched. In the end, well actually not the end since Miis aren't dead yet, but I think it's safe to say that Miis have been extremely popular and iconic for Nintendo, and they're a monumental reason for Nintendo's modern success. Miyamoto got all of the kisses he wanted back in 1983. If there's anything that we can take away from the history of Miis, it's that you should never give up. That's the most cliche thing I've ever said on this channel, but it's true. Miyamoto tried getting his Avatar idea off the ground for 20 years, and he finally got what he wanted. The legacy of Miis has lasted for 15 years and has been an endless source of joy for millions. So Miyamoto's perseverance really paid off. Plus, I see this as a win since we got this out of Miis. Thanks for watching, guys. This is my last weekly upload for the summer because marching band camp is going to be 11 hours a day a week for 2 weeks. And then my senior year of high school starts after that. I'm at the point where I'm hoping that my next video will be able to come out sometime in the next month since I'm going to be that busy. Okay, thank you guys for coming along with me in this weekly upload challenge. That was 8 videos for 8 weeks, and if you're seeing this in the farther future, just ignore everything I just said. I'll see you guys in a few weeks, hopefully. Goodbye!